Okay guys, I'm doing a video on the Glasgow Modified Alcohol Withdrawal Scale. So it's the GMAWS, which is a replacement for the CIWA, which we're all familiar with, which is the old alcohol scale that we used to use. Benefits of the GMAWS are as follows. So it's a 10-point scale, and so it goes from 0 to 10, much easier to grade. It's quicker to do, it's more inter-rater reliable, which means that one person scoring the GMAW will score the same as the next person scoring the GMAW if you get several observers. And remember, the CIWA is out of 27, it's much more time consuming. So the GMAW is going to save you time. It works the same, and then it's used to be able to grade how far somebody is towards alcohol withdrawal or alcohol withdrawal seizures and the DT's delirium tremens. So 10-point scale, and it's actually only 5 realms, and they're scored either a 0, a 1, or a 2 on the scoring. So it's much easier to do. You're a 0 if you've got nothing in that realm. You're a 1 if you've got a little bit of the sign in that realm, and then you're a 2 if it's quite extreme. And there's a mnemonic to remember it by. The thing to remember about the parts of the GMAW scale is that they are all objective, not subjective. So you need to get away from the idea of necessarily judging too much on the way that the patient feels necessarily, because feelings are quite variable between patient to patient. There's some people who feel, for instance, very, very anxious about the idea that they might be about to go into seizures, but in fact, there's no physical evidence that they're going to, and we're going to concentrate on the physical. It is more objective, it's more easily reproducible and trackable, and it correlates better with the person's eventual outcome. So again, we're going to not ignore, but we're going to leave aside for a second feelings, okay? Now, the domains are as follows, and the mnemonic is a shot, so A-S-H-O-T. And when somebody is being watched for whether they're going to go into alcohol withdrawal seizures, you just keep in your mind that, oh, what this guy needs is a shot. And in fact, we're not talking about a shot of alcohol, that's the way you remember it. They're possibly in need of a shot of lorazepam or whatever your sedative of choice is. So let's start with A. So we've got a shot and we've got A. So A is for agitation, okay? Now remember, A is not necessarily anxiety, it's agitation, and agitation should be visible. And you either get a 0, a 1, or a 2. So a 0 for agitation is just the average person who's cooperative with you. There's no problems. You're able to have a conversation with them, and their physical agitation level is not in the way of the conversation. So right now, I'm not agitated, and hopefully neither are you. Agitation of a 1 would be somebody who, just because of being nervy and this kind of thing, they can follow your conversation, but they are starting to have troubles either following you or doing what you want, and yet they can, right? So the thing about an agitation of a 1 is that it is either distractible, dissuadable, or you can chill them the heck down. So they have the sign, not the symptom, the sign, but you can bring it down a notch just by what you do without using pharmacological means. Okay, that's the difference. So there are plenty of people in the emergency room who present agitated, but most of them we can talk down. If they can talk them down, they get a 1 at most. A 2 for agitation is the agitation that you either can't get somebody down on using non-pharmacological means, you're thinking about restraint, you're thinking about that this is going to turn to a code white, or you're thinking pharmacology right away. So it's a dangerous situation that you have tried and failed, and there's the key, is you need to try. So if you think somebody is an A of a 1 or a 2, you need to actually do something. I mean, ask them if they want a sandwich. And if somebody says, oh, you know what? Yeah, a sandwich would be nice. And if they're eating while talking to you and they've managed to sort of chillax themselves down a notch, it's going to be really hard to make an argument that that is an agitation of a 2. It doesn't matter what they say. If somebody says to you, I'm freaked out to the max and I need all the Valium in the world right now, but they're holding a Tim Hortons cup of coffee, which they went and got themselves, they cannot be a 2, and it's not really convincible that they're even a 1, all right? That's A for agitation. Our next one in A shot is S. So S is sweating, all right? So sweating, again, objective, not subjective. So it can't be that the person says, oh, I feel really sweaty. That's not sweating. So sweating, either somebody's got normal dry skin and you can feel it. It's dry, it's fine. If you can physically feel sweat and they feel moist compared to you can use yourself as a control, then maybe they get a sweating of 1, but it has to be feelable. It is not that the person says, I feel really sweaty right now. And then a sweating of 2 is visible. So the difference between a 1 and a 2 is tactile versus visual. And if you see somebody at triage and you're like, whoa, that guy's really, really sweating, you've got beads of sweat coming down, that's a sweating of 2. Not that easy to get. So we're talking the same level of sweating as you'll see in a STEMI. Okay, that one is easy. Next is H, hallucinations. Now, again, hallucinations, you have to be careful because we have to do it the same as what psychiatrists do. It is not what the person tells us necessarily, because those might be feelings. We want facts. So I'm not having hallucinations right now. If I start to attend to other stimuli, so I'm turning and looking under things, especially in the middle of a conversation. So if visual or auditory anything is becoming interruptive, but you need to dial the person back, that's a 1. Not that easy to get. You won't see it that much even in actual schizophrenics. But if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and assess them, and they're looking behind you or looking under corners, and you say, whoa, 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 you know, come on back to me. If they are dissuadable or distractible, then that's probably an H of 1. But the idea of, well, doc, you know, I see things all the time, that is not H. All right, they don't get an H of 1 for them telling you that, you know, earlier on today they saw some stuff. It needs to be the now. Because another important thing for the GMAWS, it is a serial scale. What matters is now, same as CBGs. I don't care what somebody's sugar was yesterday. I care now. So, an H of 2. H of 2 is a non-dissuadable hallucination. So they're either got auditory or visual stuff, and they're wandering off looking at things and picking at bugs, and you can't stop them from doing it. That's a tactile hallucination. So delusions of parasitosis is a tactile kind of hallucination. And if somebody's doing that, that's an H of 2. I can't remember the last time that I ever saw an H of 2, even in a paranoid schizophrenic. So these are people who are actively seeing things right in the room right now. The most likely time you'll ever see your next H2 person is going to be in an active delirium or an active sort of delirium mixed with dementia in a senior. So if they're calling out and talking to loved ones in the room and you can't convince them otherwise, that's an H2. Okay, we're getting done here. O is the next one, and we've got O. O is for orientation, right? So I'm not disoriented right now, neither are you. Disorientation of 1 is where you need to reorient the person. So they don't start oriented, you reorient the person by saying, you know, you're in hospital right now. And they say, right, hospital. So if they are correctable but disoriented, that's an orientation of 1. But at the minute somebody says they know where they are, and again, the minute that somebody's got the Tim Hortons cup in their hand, it's hard to make an argument that they're disoriented, even if they say, I don't know where I am. Well, you walked over to the tuck shop and got Tim Hortons coffee. So I'm going to say that you're probably oriented. Days of the week is probably okay, but I'm not sure I know the day of the week right now. Month is probably great, season is probably great, but be careful using this in people who probably have no possible way of knowing what day it is. So if somebody's just been released from AIPU, I'm not going to hold it against them if they don't know what the date is. So it's orientation to the now and the who you are and this kind of thing. Who am I? If people are disoriented to the idea that I'm a physician, even though I'm not precisely dressed like one, then maybe that counts as an O of 1. They're disoriented, but reorientable. So I tell them, by the way, in your hospital, you come back and ask them. He says, you know, I'm in hospital, you just said that. So that's a 1. Super hard to get an O of 2. So their orientation negative for 2, I mean, you'll see head injured people who you reorient them, they come back to it. They still don't know where they are. You know, people who are persistently saying that they are somewhere else. So they think persistently they're at the nursing home. They think persistently, I had one guy once who was florid psychotic, who thought he was in a foxhole in World War II. That guy's disoriented too. But it's not that easy to get. Last one, and we're done, is T. T is for tremors. And again, I'll remind everybody that all 5 domains that we've used have been objective, not subjective. It is not enough by any means for somebody to say, I'm in withdrawals because I feel really shaky right now. Feeling shaky right now is a feeling, not a fact. And then it's up to you as the observer to say, are they actually visibly shaking? And I am not, even though if you look at my hands, they have, there, the pinky is doing it. I've got a little bit of a tremor in. I mean, I drank coffee this morning. So that's still going to be a T of 0. I don't feel shaky, and visibly, we're watching for it, like, I don't think so. So we need some kind of a way to measure it. So Again, tremors that I can calm down and control myself are the example of where, okay, the person is probably observably a T of 1. Again, our cup is going to be helpful. So watch. I have a shake on my left hand. I'm going to take a styrofoam cup. Styrofoam is great because it's light and very, very sensitive. And we can see now that's going to magnify my tremors, and yet there's no problem here. I don't ever need to catch the thing, right? So I have a tremor maybe, but not enough to say that it would ever get in the way of me holding this cup. I could do this forever, right? So I'm going to say that I'm T of 0. T of 1 would be this kind of thing. Whoa, I've got it. This is a T of, there. That's a T of 1. So I've got a tremor. I can hold it down for a while, but occasionally I need to do that. Same as you need to reorient somebody, same as you need to tell somebody to chill the heck down. It's a distractible, dissuadable problem, and it's not causing a disability. Tremor of 2, I can't actually do the task, nor can I save myself from it later on. So for a tremor of 2, typically their whole body is doing it, and typically they can't even perform the task. Again, this is just a fake out for it. You don't need to use this cup to do tremors, but this is what you're looking for. And you just need to make sure that it's somebody who could do the task in the first place. Don't do it to somebody who's blind. Don't do it to somebody who's got an amputation of their arm. I mean, you know, you need to use some judgment here. But that's a way to sort of mentally picture, what do I care about? And that key is, can I turn it off with help? And for all 5 of the domains, that's what you're judging. We'll go into a later video as to how we use the GMAWS scale, but I wanted to spend about 10 minutes telling people how to grade it. The key is objectively. Thanks very much. Have a great day.